Hi, everyone.
Well, happy IYRP.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Happy IYRP. Hey, Mark, I've got a question for you. I know you've been working with a group of people for a while now to get ready for IYRP, with some different ways to celebrate. Could you share with us what you've been doing and what you've got together?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we work to develop uh, templates for proclamations and resolutions. This started as a discussion through the Rangelands Partnership. And then I worked with Retta Bruger, who is a rangeland management specialist for Colorado State University, Kalina Rainey, who was then our Washington, D.C. liaison for the Society for Range Management, and Caitlin Glover, who is the executive director for the Public Lands Council and the NCBA Natural Resources Program. And so we got together and drafted two templates, one for resolutions and one for proclamations. And in addition to that, in addition to those templates, we put together some uh, basic steps and procedures that you could follow to develop a proclamation or a resolution and present them to whatever body of you wanted to, whether that would be a state legislature, a city council, uh, or a mayor or a governor, for example. Um, and that includes a cover letter that was drafted by Lane Kopic for coming from the SRM, Society for Range Management. So that's a complete packet that's available for people to use. And the templates are really essentially that, just a template. They're there to give you some guidance on some verbiage and the way that proclamations and resolutions are formulated, but they're not written in stone. You can take and discard what you want. You can add to it, or you can change some of the verbiage to fit your local need, depending on what your purpose is for your resolution or your proclamation.
So, Mark, could you tell us a little bit what is the difference between a resolution and a proclamation, and why would people do one? What sort of impact do they have on a larger social level?
Yeah, sure. First of all, so proclamations and resolutions are basically a civic tool that we can use to bring ideas, issues, or events into the public realm for discussion and debate, and then hopefully either acceptance or rejection based on the merits of the arguments. And that's kind of why they're written the way that they are. Um, Proclamations are typically used by um, you know, the sort of the executive branch. I mean, we most often tie proclamations and resolutions into our government activities, but really any organized body can do a proclamation or a resolution, and it really depends on what you want to come out of that. So, um, proclamations are a tool for the executive branch. Um, of an organization. So your leadership or your president or whatever, governor, mayor, and that allows them to sort of proclaim or determine that there is something of value that society needs to recognize and celebrate. So in the context of IYRP and rangelands and pastoralists, we are encouraging people to, submit proclamations and resolutions. The proclamations would be, to celebrate rangelands, to create that awareness and an acknowledgement that rangelands and ranchers or pastoralists are of value and should be lifted up and celebrated um, as a as a an important ecosystem and as important stewards of that ecosystem. So that's how proclamations would go. Resolutions are typically done, through a legislative body, and um, are primarily focused at, you know, at directing attention and um, and commitment to doing something within that context. So, a state legislature might resolve, in this case, let's in the case of rangelands and pastoralists, might resolve to acknowledge and support and pass legislation that would support rangelands and pastoralists, for example. So we could look at a resolution as being something that's could commit action and commit attention to some aspect. So that's kind of how those two things differ and how they might be used. Couple examples that so the Society for Range Management recently the board of directors have recently approved a resolution by the board. It's just internal to the Society for Range Management in support of the IYRP 2026. And so um, that was just internal to SRM, and that it can be used in that regards, just for an organization. And what it's saying that the Society for Range Management is going to celebrate and focus on supporting IYRP throughout 2026, right? And it seems like a no-brainer since we're the Society for Range Management, but it's a resolution. It's saying we are committed to this, right? We're not just giving lip service to this. We voted on it, we drafted it, we voted on it, and now it's become a policy within the Society for Range Management. So that's how a resolution might go through. Um, uh, what was the rest of your question, Lauren? And how that?
That's it.
I don't know if I
You
got
covered that
everything answered.
perfectly, Mark.
Okay.
It
All
was
right. Great.
proclamations raise awareness and celebration, resolutions on the ground, and making sure that things get done.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. And Mark, my next question, I think you touched on a bit in Lauren's question, but why should my local cattlemen's or cattlewomen or wool growers association, my local grazing association, want to try to do a resolution at the county level or at the state level, and then maybe even national level?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. And I think one thing is to keep in perspective is that the IYRP is this international, global scale focus on rangelands as an ecosystem and the people that steward those lands, and we the terminology that's used at the international level is pastoralism, but that encompasses anybody that's out providing stewardship for those lands. Our ranchers, our herders, our the nomadic peoples in different lands and everything else. So it encompasses all of that. And so it's tying in sort of this global international focus on the value and the importance of rangelands and the people on those lands. And so you at the local level, if you can think about what your issues are, they're tied across this global scale. So it this whole international year of rangelands and pastorals gives us extra uh, impetus, I think, or extra um, energy in focusing on the value and the importance of rangelands at our local level. So, a livestock association might think about what their local issues are on their rangelands, but now can tie that into this international focus on rangelands and pastoralism, to sort of push through ideas or concepts or legislation to support their own local issues. And so while all the attention is out here at the international level, you can now take that and bring all of that attention down to your local issues. And so it's a great opportunity now to capitalize on this international effort to recognize rangelands and pastoralists as extremely valuable systems and management of that system. So I think that's an important aspect is it's just tying all of that in. And you know, as much as we think our issues are very specific to our region or local issue, oftentimes there are other people that are dealing with those at different scales and at different locations, and you can tie those in and people can say, yeah, we're doing that too, and here's what we're doing. And so by putting together something here, you might stimulate something for somebody else in another area. And I think that's really important to be able to tie ourselves in at a global scale and say, we're part of this. In Hawaii, and not many people think about Hawaii as being a rangeland state, and but nearly half of our state can be designated as rangelands. Nearly a quarter of our state is being managed um, uh, for livestock production, and so we're a very tiny bit of the global aspect of rangelands, but I think here locally, I think it's important for us to say, look, we're part of this issue. We're part of rangelands. It's not acknowledged as well. Just for people don't wake up and say, "Oh, I think there's some rangelands in Hawaii." They think about beaches and palm trees, but we have that. So it's important at our local level. It's important for us to stand up and say we're part of this effort, and we have issues too. And here are our issues, and we want them acknowledged and to be a part of that celebration for all of that.
As a pastoralist friend of mine once said, Maria Jesus Pons, in the field alone we are invisible, together we are invincible. And I think that's a very great way to epitomize what you just said, why
Yeah,
people should get
that's
involved.
excellent. Yeah, that's excellent. That's great. That fits very well.
Well, thank you
Perfect. Well,
very much,
thanks,
Mark.
Mark.
And
Yeah,
to everyone that's watching, as Mark said, like we want to hear, right? We don't want to just like we want people to pass resolutions and proclamations, but also let us know because the way to make this more of a global effort to hear the sound of all of our voices going out in all these different contexts, let us know. In the description, we've got a form to fill out as well as links to the guides and templates that Mark and the team have put together. So if people have any questions or need any answers, we'll put contact information. But fill out the form if you're doing a proclamation and resolution so we can all just celebrate IYRP in every way possible.
great. Go
Thanks so much.
IYRP.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Mark. Thanks so much, Theresa. And thanks everyone
All
for
right.
watching.
Goodbye.